or suffering from exhaustion. Life beating you down, so you still playing cautious. Need you to search deep inside of your conscience. Unleash whatever monsters are keeping you from your progress. I know that you gon' find a way. Never give up. Tomorrow could be the brightest day. Follow the light.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so much better.
Yeah, I was trying to play through my beats, but it doesn't work. Stupid.
Aw, no beats for you.
Yeah, right. How's the tournament?
It's fine. I went 2 and out.
Oh. Yeah, well, I do the same thing.
It's a tough tournament, and I lent my cues to somebody and was using someone else's cues, and those cues did not agree with me.
Yeah, right.
And it showed. So it was brutal, and it's over, and we'll get to play some more later.
There you go. Yeah, so how this works is like just a conversation. Like for the first maybe like couple minutes, whatever, we'll just bullshit like we're bullshitting right now, and then like we just slowly kind of roll into the conversation. And it goes typically about an hour-ish. I don't know, whatever. It could be 40 minutes. It could be 20 minutes. It could be whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you listen to Winter is Coming. Yeah, so I'm actually excited about this because like you're like probably the first left person like to and I even hate saying left and right because you're just stupid, right? We're all Americans. We're all trying to get the same thing. But what I'm trying to say is like your viewpoints are the other side. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
So this is going to be interesting because just trying to like understand and like, you know what I mean?
Sure. No, I'm more centrist than anything else, but I'll tell you what, this election has been really polarizing one way or the other. So, yeah.
Oh, 100% wild. Where people have like literally fought and stopped talking to each other. And like, I mean, I get it, but like, it's really, like you said, it really just drew lines in the sand and people are on one side or the other.
And people are really passionate on both sides, right?
People are really passionate on both sides, in which I get it. You know what I mean? Like, so I've been down conspiracy rabbit holes for years, right?
Sure.
I really haven't been much on politics, because of the rabbit holes and the conspiracy world. They're typically not left or right, and they think power structures are bullshit, and they don't believe that take
but
like
what's the alternative there? Anarchy? Like, I'm not down for that either. So this is the system that we have. We have to find a way to work within it. And the best way to do that is to get out and vote. And unfortunately, right now, we have 2 parties that really are in contention. The Green Party's the Libertarians. I would love to see one of those guys win. But the way everybody thinks about it is if you vote for one of them, you're actually taking away a vote for, say, the Democratic Party.
Right.
And so I don't want to waste my vote on something that's not going to get anywhere anyway. But I did notice on the ballot this year, there was a popular vote and really trying to make a move away from the Electoral College. And I think that's a huge move for a system that was set up 200 years ago that makes no sense in today's day and age.
I agree.
Right? Like, we should have online voting. Why do I have to sign something and send it in? You guys have my social security, my bank accounts, my tax returns. Like, you can find me. You know who I am.
Right.
And I have apps and phones for everything else. And really, the ballot was super short. It took me probably, 15 minutes to look up all of the measures and what the pros and the cons were for, and then decide, which way do I want to go on gray wolves, which I can't believe that was one of the questions, but that's fine. I'm down for gray wolves. We should have more of them.
Oh, like introducing them into certain environments?
Yeah, it sounds like they've been chased away or almost to the point of extinction.
Right.
In a lot of these Colorado mountains where they used to roam freely and there used to be thousands of them. So they want to reintroduce them, and then they can control the deer and elk population too.
Yep.
So there's a lot of benefits to having them around. So yes, I voted for things like that. I think that's important. The environment's important. A lot of Trump's policies are all big business and,
Right.
nepotism and his friends in those offices. And that's not draining the swamp. That's now making your swamp the protected wetlands. Like, that's ridiculous.
I can definitely see that, though.
He didn't make it better.
Right.
I don't think he did. So that's where I'm going. You have to go blue. You just have to. The guy's been lying to us since the beginning. Like, and I get your conspiracy theories too. I think there's something to that. But until I have another choice, these are the options that I have, right? You got to pick one. And are you happy with the way things have been going today, or would you like to see a change? And I personally would like to see a change. I would like to see that office be a little bit more presidential. I would like us to have a bigger part on the world stage and not be laughed at when we go to NATO or the UN or where, on these grand Paris Accords, things that we should all be a part of. But instead, he's walked away from, and I don't think that's right. And I'd really like to see Biden get back into more environmental policies on a global scale.
No, I agree. So I, when Trump first got in office, I was definitely not a Trump supporter. I'm not really one now. You know what I mean? It is interesting to me. So I even took a political compass test and I posted that to like my Facebook and stuff, and like that political compass test puts me like far left. You know what I mean? Like a deep in left territory. And
but what does that really mean when you're deep in left? You care about people. You want to make sure people have food and jobs and a minimum living wage. You want to save the environment. You want to make sure all the LGBTQIA, whatever, all of the folks have the equal rights. You can do what you want to do. Like, how far left is that? Those are all seem like they're core policies, right?
Right.
It's not that big of a stretch, but was there something else in there that made you a far leftist?
Like taking it, there is no like, your answers are only agree, strongly agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. You know what I mean? So and they talk a lot about, or the questions that are asked, they're more of like situations, or they're more of like propositions.
Yep.
Right. So like it's more like, not total socialist stuff, but like, you're thinking about other people. You're not trying to be just for yourself. You're also trying to be for other people.
Look, man, I like the infrastructure. I like schools. I like roads. I like policemen. Do I think all of them are shiny, happy beacons of light? Probably not. And you have to have some sort of progress check to keep those guys off of those kinds of jobs and make sure that you have the right people in the right places. But I don't think you tear all of that stuff down. I don't think you defund the police. I think that's insane. Who's going to really benefit from that? It's not the poor black and brown neighborhoods that need more help, not less.
Yeah. No one's going to, if there were no police in this world, we're all fucked. That's Wild West, Mad Max Fury style, right? Which is interesting because that's what the left was out ranting about, right? Defund the police, and like that didn't really make any sense.
But was that really the left? I don't think that was the left. It wasn't Biden and Harris that are out there saying that. I don't think they've ever said that.
Yeah, wasn't that the Black Lives Matter movement and the police brutality movement?
I think they're all intertwined, but I also think protesting is one of the pillars of democracy, where if you don't like something, you have to be able to protest peacefully, and show your public acknowledgement and disagreement with what's going on without creating fights or riots. Or I think that's when people take advantage of the system. I don't think those are like, woo, super democratic, like, let's go loot something. I think they're taking advantage for themselves, and they take it on a little bit too far, right? But I think most of the policies of the Democratic ticket, when you look through them, they're benefiting the people. They're looking at, do the poor have what they need to survive? Can we create jobs that are clean jobs that will help the environment? and really trying to figure out some alternatives to all this big business. I mean, putting some of the folks in office that Trump's appointed. I mean, I think my favorite is the guy from, isn't it Monsanto, who was like the worst violator of like, what were they doing? Pesticides and stuff on all of your food. And now he's the head of the EPA. Like, that doesn't seem odd to you? Like, these are really important positions so that you could feed your families, right? It's not, oh yeah, that guy gave his little brother a job. Like, these are guys that are making the rules for how we safely get food.
No, absolutely. For sure. Isn't it interesting how, so like it's, let's see, what am I trying to say is, because what I'm trying to say is kind of what I want to get into in a little bit. So to me, it's interesting to see how, yes, voting is a necessary deal in a democracy world, right? The people vote, the people, all this, right? And 100%, right? No one's better than anyone else. Promote more of a capitalistic society to where people have actually, a drive or a purpose or incentive to, grow something, build something, achieve something, right? That can financially reward them, right? Into the, poor and whatever. So what is interesting?
She's trying to. Want me to do it for you? Yes, please. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, it is. It's part of the democratic way of life, but nowhere does it say that you will be guaranteed any of those things, right? Like, you have the option, the pursuit of liberty and happiness. It doesn't say you deserve all of
We're
those
not
things.
guaranteed it, right? For sure.
It's definitely not a guarantee. But for what about the old folks? What about the poor folks? What about the people that never had the opportunities to get ahead in life? What happens to them? Did they just stay in minimum wage jobs and now you're stuck because you're stuck there? No, they have the option to go get an education and they can try to make something more of themselves than what they did. But what about the older folks? Like, they start to retire. They're talking about taxing Social Security, and that's on the left side. And I think Trump's got something in there about Social Security, like taking it away as well. Like, that's a whole thing. You have to figure out a way to take care of all the people within your society in order to have a healthy society, so that your major wage earners are able to go out and make those deals and those jobs and have breadwinners and people that are feeding their family. But there's all these tertiary people that aren't the main breadwinner or whatever that still need to be able to live. So is that the government's responsibility to help them and to help redistribute that wealth? Maybe, maybe not. I think, if you get to be 70, congratulations, you made it to 70. Maybe you don't have to work 40 hours a week anymore. You should be able to, afford an apartment somewhere, be able to eat food. I mean, there's a lot of people on Social Security that are debating on whether they're going to pay rent or they're going to go to the grocery store.
Right.
And how do you give those people health care? It's Medicaid and Medicare and all of these programs we have put in place, Obamacare, people with pre-existing conditions that you have to think about. And if you take away all of those protections for the lesser folks that are not, those major breadwinners and in the workforce right now, folks, then, you can't have a healthy society and just kill off the weak. Like, that's not really how this works.
Right. Yeah, like isn't there a hierarchy of wolves? Because we're just talking about wolves. There's a hierarchy when the wolves travel. So it's like the main are in the middle. The old and sick
are in the back. Those will get picked off first, right?
They're in the front.
Oh, they're in the front?
They're in the front because they set the pace.
Ah, okay.
Right?
You can only go as fast as your weakest link.
Right. So the main body is in the middle. the old and sick are in the front. The I think it's like the two strongest males are in the back, and then that is the hierarchy of when wolves travel, because the weak and old set the pace in the front, right? And if anything, and if they ever come up against anything that threatens them, they just fall back into the pack, and that's where like most of the the normal healthy strong ones are, right?
Sure.
Then and then the two strongest are in the back, and they protect the backside, and they make sure no wolf is left behind.
Well, that's important,
so,
right? No wolf left behind. I think
sure.
that concept is
For
important.
sure.
I think as a
For
society,
sure.
you have to remember it's not just the healthy and strong ones that you have to have, but all of their support networks that allow them to go out and do all the things they need to do. And so
Right.
how do we as a society take care of all of those folks to enable the folks we need to go out and work? And what does that really look like? And, Trump's been tough the last 4 years. He's not very presidential. He lies to everybody all the time. He's full of double talk. You can get into the white supremacy thing, which I don't know if I need to go so far as to say he's a white supremacist, but stand back and stand down are two different things. And that is not what he asked them to do. And so by doing that, it was really a call to action for those guys. And now they're waiting for when Trump loses. And then what's going to happen? What is going to happen on November 5th, 6th, 7th, that very beginning if Trump doesn't win? In some of these states, do you think there'll be riots? Do you think there'll be militias or 17-year-olds with AK-47s wandering down the streets saying what's up to all the police? Meanwhile, all the protesters, quote unquote, that are rioting are getting arrested and their asses kicked. Like, what's that going to look like?
No, right. So question, do you think that our political system has like zero corruption in it?
That's silly. Of course it has corruption in it.
Right.
I think all governments forever have had some
sure.
sort of corruption in it. And you see all those backroom deals and the things that happen. And did you see that Kevin Spacey drama on Netflix? It was fantastic, but it was all
House of Cards.
House of Cards. Thank you.
Yep.
That you see the corruption and the games these people play and the levels they play it at. I don't think part of the reason that show was exciting and interesting was because of those things that they're doing. And some of them are completely legal and acceptable. Lobbying, being able to talk to all those folks and push for your initiatives.
Special interest groups.
Like a lot of that is, it happens. It's how our political system works. So watching the behind the scenes of how it works in practice gave you a really good idea of what those people are doing on a day-to-day basis. And I know some of it was embellished for TV and all that. I'm not saying that is what happens, but those kinds of things do happen.
Oh, they happen, and they happen a lot worse. You know what I mean? Like, that show to me was watered down. It is extremely interesting when you start looking into what like operations and programs and budgets are really for. Like it's crazy. Like we were just talking about like poor neighborhoods and stuff, right? What if those are designed to be poor all the time? Because we've had poor neighborhoods for a long time. We've had crime for a long time. Me personally, I don't think that it is in humans' nature to be that way. I think that there are certain things, for example, we're just talking about police officers, right? Yes, that whole hiring system and standards that has to change, because like how a police officer is hired on is those standards and those procedures. Like I have friends that are police officers. I have friends that tried out for the police academy and were prison officers and whatever, right? So it's very interesting to me how it's like, how are you a police officer? I know you personally. There's no way you should be a police officer.
Well, look, and that's one of the reasons
But they
it's
became
really
one.
important to vote blue all the way down that ticket. I think, having those kinds of standards are really important, and be able to weed out the folks that should not be there. Like, that is a really important thing. But I think it's also the political standard. Who's your mayor? Who's your representative for Congress? Like, all of those guys are helping to control what kind of police you have, and what kind of regulations there are, and what kind of testing there is. And I get it. It's a tough job. And those guys, I commend them for going out there. I know a lot of great police officers out there that are risking their lives every day to help keep folks like me safe. And when something happens, I want the ability to call and to trust the people that are coming to my house to help me. I think they perform such an important function. And you don't hear about the millions of interactions that go well. You hear about the one that didn't. And so those are the ones that you got to pay real special attention to. And if those are the officers that are treating people that way, I mean, standing on some guy's neck for 7 minutes, that guy probably needs to go. Like, those are unacceptable behaviors that you don't get second chances. You don't go out on a 2-week suspension. Like, you're done. You don't get to treat people that way. And, sometimes when I think about Biden and I think about Trump, I think about which ones would I allow into my circles. I don't think I would let Trump anywhere near anybody that I know. I think that would just, he would just have such a corrupt circle around him, and his decisions are so difficult, and his double talk, it just drives me insane. And not that Biden, I want to have him over for dinner, but the truth is that I think he's been bipartisan. He's been in the government for a really long time, and you don't get to do that without making a lot of compromises, understanding the different sides' point of view, and really being able to come to diplomatic solutions. And you're not always going to get everything that you want, but you got to fight for those things that are important. And I think Biden does that.
So like the Biden thing, right? Like, little devil's advocate is, have you seen those videos of him, grabbing children?
I have, and I think that
they are fucking
they
weird.
are weird. I agree. But have you seen the one
like,
where Trump basically says from the horse's mouth on video, grab him by the pussy?
Grab him by the pussy.
You know, he says all sorts of things that are so disturbing to me. And the children and Biden thing is also disturbing to me, but not on the level of Trump's like outright misogyny.
Okay. I understand what you're saying on that.
People are inferring things on the children Biden things that may or may not be there. I haven't seen a lot of first-hand witnesses come out and be like, yep, he was leering at me. I mean, pictures can be misleading. So I don't know, but I've seen it from Trump, like firsthand. Like, this is things that he says. These are things that he does. And so it's a little bit more credible because it's first degree as opposed to second degree and something inferred. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying that it feels a little more secondhand than the things Trump is just blatantly putting in your face and saying that's how it is. And I think that is really disturbing.
Right. Here's something interesting, right? Because I listened to it all, right? Like, I watched the Obama speech.
Oh my God, I
watched
him
the
yesterday.
Biden deals.
He was out campaigning, obviously, for Biden and Harris. And he was speaking at some drive-in car rally. And I swear to God, I missed that man's speeches because it was full of hope. And you wanted to listen. And you wanted to hear what that guy had to say. And you wanted to believe. And he was really inspiring. And I missed that in a presidential character. And it's part of what I really feel Trump is missing.
You don't think that maybe the Obama stuff is like too polished?
Is that possible?
Like, it's like,
I want it polished. You were on the world stage. You were the damn president of the United States. You should be polished.
No, I agree. When Obama first came out, I was a massive Obama supporter because I'm like, dude, this dude's different, right? But then I started to like kind of pay attention to what he's doing, and then I became like super skeptical and sketchy of Obama. You know what I mean? Like, during his presidency, he rewrote and and pushed the NDAA Act. So Bush Bush did the same thing, which it's the National Defense Authorization Act. So that means under any circumstance that you are suspected of terrorism, they can come detain you in Guantanamo Bay for as long as they want, based under terrorist deals, right? Terrorist suspicion. Well, when Obama signed off on it again, it changed to any person can be detained indefinitely. So when the Portland thing was happening and you had those federal officers out there like arresting people off the street and people are like, that's illegal. Well, Trump was just using what Obama wrote for him. You know what I mean? Which is interesting. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not here to like, shit on one side and, like that's not what this is about.
No, and I'll be honest, I don't know anything about that act, and I don't know anything about the background or how it came to be or why it's there or what writers came with it. That's the other part is like he might have wanted one piece of that act, but in order to get that, he needed to sign off on this. And that's the part that you don't always see, right?
Yeah, but he sold out some people now.
I'm sure he did, and that's part of the politics of it. Like he sold them out, but what did he gain? And what was that? What were the writers that were attached to that? And they might have been worthy of doing it. That's all I'm saying. You don't have the whole picture. You know exactly what he may or may not have signed and what the ramifications you're extrapolating are, but you don't know what other piece of legislation went along with it, which may be doing a lot of good out there. And, it's assumptions, but, that's the part of like, I don't have the full picture. You don't have the full picture. So how do you make a decision based on that? And at some point it gets back to values, and you look at the two candidates, you look at the values that they have and they bring to the table and what's important to them. And the fear that's around it. And it's funny, I get some of these Trump supporters going on my Facebook feed because, well, I post lots of stuff and it's interesting to have the conversation and just listen to why they're voting what they're voting. And they're saying, oh, Biden didn't do anything in 47 years that he's been in government. And I don't think that's true. I've seen lists and lists of his accomplishments. There's the Domestic Violence Against Women Act. There's a Protect Our Children Act. I mean, there's a lot of big bills that he sponsored that they're not giving him any credit for. And again, when you're in Congress like that, you're going to make compromises and you got to reach across the aisle and find ways of working with the other side. And to do that for 50 years takes talent and a lot of diplomacy and to rise to this level. And so I really think Biden has a chance of making some legitimate changes. And I think they'll be better for the country than anything that Trump's done in the last 4 years. Got to be better than the person he appointed to the head of the Department of Education, the EPA, Judge Amy Coney Barrett that he's trying to put on the Supreme Court. I mean, a lot of those things are so shady. And it's just, I don't think that those are people that should be there. I don't think that Trump's making a lot of great choices when it comes to his media profile, when it comes to his appointments, and maybe he is doing something on the back end that I haven't seen to give everybody a break. But look at his response to the pandemic. How do you think that went?
I think what he did, like there wasn't much he could do. You know what I mean? People don't realize that when every state, when every state declares state of emergency and then the country declares a national emergency. So under Carter, he consolidated a lot of these executive orders into one. So and when this executive order comes to be, it's when the states pass or when the states activate state of emergency, and then our country does national emergency. So that means the power shifts from the president to FEMA.
Didn't he appoint someone the head of FEMA too?
I'm gonna hope he did, because so there's a book called Behold a Pale Horse, and the dude talks some it might sound wild, might whatever, but when you look into all that stuff, it's like, wow, this stuff is fucking like like our country is so like our laws are so convoluted and so like if you were asked for like a D class of a bill, like I tried to look up and read through the last stimulus package act, and it's almost impossible to find. Supposedly it's like 1,400 pages. How do you pass 1,400 pages in 3 days? You know, because when I learned about the Patriot Act and how much that fucked us, like it made me skeptical of any other of these acts, because through fear they can push out whatever they want, right? The Patriot Act fucked us. Like that took away freedoms that people don't really realize. That was weird.
And we're back after a commercial break.
That was weird. It just kicked us right out.
It did. It kicked me off. I was like, I can't hear anything. So
anyways, sorry. I'll splice those together. So yeah, judging from the face value of things, I understand how people see, if I just knew things from face value and I just watched Trump talk and I watched Biden talk, you know what I mean? Trump is an asshole. He is very rude when he talks. He's very, he seems like he doesn't care about anybody but himself. Why
do you think it seems that way? Maybe because it is that way? I don't know. His persona is very abrasive. That's for sure.
Right.
He speaks to a certain type of person, and those people are very passionate.
Right. And I also don't agree with a lot of the people on the right that are also not understanding because they're the same as the people on the left, right? Like, Well,
Biden said it at the last debate, right? He's like, whether you're voting for me or not voting for me, you're part of the American people. Like, that's who he's really running for. And I think that was really smart and inclusive of him to say it's not just the red or blue states that I really want to get, or even just the swing states. Like, I want to fight for all of us as Americans.
That was a very focus grouped answer, I thought. You know what I mean? Like, his team went out and just focus grouped and they're like, hey, lay it on in the middle. Yeah, it's that's what it is though, right? The left is more playing on emotions, right? All of this left play is emotion. And it's been like this the whole time. Like what people don't so a little bit deeper of the story is Bush, Obama, McCain, and Clinton are all part of the same group. Behind the scenes, they're all friends. They are
everybody in politics is frenemies. I've seen that conspiracy. I know what you're talking about.
Which is very dangerous.
But it could be. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, they all are playing on that same stage. It's, you and I play pool in a big pool hall, right?
Right.
Well, there's some big sharks that swim around. They play against each other. They're enemies. They play with each other. Some Scotch doubles match. They're friends. And I think that's the same way with politics. It depends on the situation and the opportunity, and you're going to try to make the most of what you got. And those people, of course, they know each other. They've been running into each other for years.
Right. So it's like, don't you think that like career politics is the issue? That's the problem.
It's part of it, but how do you downplay the experience that comes from a career in politics? I don't necessarily want newbies doing everything. The first 2 years of your job, you're still figuring out where the damn bathroom is. Like, you don't necessarily have all the relationships built and the things you need to get the bills and issues in front of or past Congress. Like, that experience comes from the many years of working together and compromises and knowing who all those people are while you build those relationships. And to say that, I want term limits, so I'm going to kick them out every so often. Yeah, turnover and fresh blood is good. And I think we should. And you should have a good system for weeding out the people that don't belong. But you also have to value the experience, the knowledge, the relationships people have when they've been in those positions for a while. And some of that is really valuable. in order to make those issues or bills pass?
So we have both watched House of Cards, and we understand that politicians can be compromised, right? Lobbying is a job title, right? That's a legit job profession.
I think it's a lobbyist, but yeah.
Which is which is corruption, right?
It's political pressure and persuasiveness.
It's bribery.
It's not bribery. Necessarily bribery, but it is a way to get issues that you want to the forefront of these politicians' minds. And there's a lot of ways to do that. There's a lot of opportunities for corruption. There's also a lot of anti-corruption laws and things that they're trying to do to protect you from it. So they know it happens, but at the same time, if you've got the money, you can lobby too. And that's the whole part of capitalism, right? You are allowed to go and lobby to the senators that are making decisions that will affect your business.
Yeah. So for example, Big Tobacco will go in and lobby for them to continue doing what they're doing, even though we know that it is very dangerous to us. Right?
Well, and that's why you're supposed to have the head of the EPA be somebody impartial that can help wade through some of those lobbyists and requests and things. Like, they should be the department that's helping to lobby for the environment, to defeat some of those lobbyists that are in those pockets. So, by putting the head of Monsanto on it, I'm not sure that that's going to achieve your goal there.
Right. And then, because you brought that Monsanto thing up, isn't it interesting that Bayer bought them out? So instead of that company going under, Bayer just absorbed them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's have you ever seen the giant media conglomerates roadmaps? They're really owned by 3 companies, no matter if there's 400 channels on. At the end of the day, you've got Disney that owns it all. It's crazy. It all goes back to 3 main companies that own pretty much everything. And they're the ones that are lobbying. Those are the guys that have the millions of dollars to spend to push their issues to the front of the agendas. And it's not the best system, I'll tell you. But it's what we have right now. And so what do you replace it with? Oh, wait, that's not on the ticket right now. Right now on the ticket is Trump and Biden. And they're very different. What else did you see on that ticket? There was a tobacco tax or something. They want to charge more for that to give more to schools. There wasn't a ton on that ticket. It was literally 10 questions. It did not take very long. But I think the biggest thing to vote for is your president. Who do you want running the country? And then the rest of it is Senate and Congress. And, it was funny. They actually asked about a bunch of judges. They're like, should we keep Judge so-and-so in place? And the truth is, I did some research and tried to find information on them, and it was not easy.
Well, that's because the internet's getting scrubbed, which is crazy.
Yeah, they're controlling some of the information that's out there. One night,
almost all of it,
2 in the morning, and I saw this story about Trump talking to an interview, and he must have been on the steroids or something, because he was talking about the second debate, which at that time had not happened yet, though he claimed he won it. And the next morning, I couldn't find that story anywhere. But I was like, I swear to God, I saw it. I wish I had screen captured it, because they're absolutely trying to take some stories out and leave some stories in. And we get into a lot of the political bias of the media, which I get accused of all the time, of posting things that have a liberal bias or a left bias. And I'm like, well, if I could find things that were right biased, I might. But all the things that I've seen that are on the right are insulting. They're name calling. They don't have a lot of facts to that. It doesn't feel like something that I could honestly post and feel good about.
So here's an interesting thing with Trump and white supremacy. If you YouTube Trump denounces white supremacy, the first video that you played 3 years ago, he denounced it. He called all the KKK, white suprem, all those groups, they're all extremist terrorist organizations. So he tried to get when he was calling it Antifa a terrorist organization. Well, he already called white supremacy and KKK, he already deemed those terrorist organizations.
Is that really a hard call? Like, of course he did. I think it's silly to press the issue, except for the way that he didn't say no. Like, the way he deflected was funny.
Like on the debate?
Yeah, it was such a softball question just to say, of course. But that's not what he did, and that's the only reason it's come back. Because I don't know that anyone is... Look, everybody's money is green to that guy. I don't think he cares if it came from a brown person, a black person, or a white person. Like, he's totally happy to take it. It's green. That's the color I think he sees. I don't think it has a lot to do with you're blonde and blue-eyed, although that might get you a job as the White House press secretary. Other than that, I don't think he's so into that. I think that's kind of a red herring just to throw out to get the people, chum the waters a little bit, get them all in a tizzy. But I don't think that's such a big issue. I think the bigger issues for me are, can we educate our children? Right? Are schools being taken care of? Can we get higher education to be a public option where it's affordable? I think that's important. I believe in investing in the future, our children. I believe in our healthcare systems. Like, we have to be able to take care of the people that need help. Big business, I think, is also an important part of that. And there has to be some compromises along the way and some checks and balances to make sure they're not just polluting all the air and taking everybody's money. Though, taxing them, that's going to be one of those trickle down things that could happen. I also saw this article about, I think it was employees in Norway or something, and they had this outrageous minimum wage at like $15, and everyone said, oh my God, it's going to trickle down into the cost of everything. And I think it raised the price of like your average grocery, something, milk or bread or whatever, by 6 cents. I would rather have those employees be making a living wage, and I'll pay the 6 cents, 10 cents, $1 more on whatever my groceries are, so that companies are able to provide that way.
So, like, because me and my brother-in-law were actually just having this conversation about that minimum wage thing. So say you work at, say, McDonald's, right? And now instead of making $9 an hour minimum wage, now you're making 15. Do you think that McDonald's is going to be like, well, we're just going to eat the profit, and because we want to pay these people more? Or do you think like your cheeseburgers are going to go up to like $3 now?
I think your cheeseburger is going to go up to $3, but maybe it was $2.50 before. So 50 cents for those workers to be getting a minimum wage is okay with me.
Right.
I don't think it's significant enough because there's a lot of market pressures. You've still got Wendy's versus McDonald's versus Burger King, all the other competitor prices out there that you have to compete with. And so you can't raise your burger to be $12.
And like, isn't it interesting too? So for me, like moving from Montana to here, the only expensive thing here is rent.
That's so
everything
funny.
else is
moving from California to here.
Everything else is the same.
Rent is so much cheaper.
Right.
So it's a matter of perspective, and I hear that a lot from people from Montana or Texas. They're like, "Oh my God, Denver's insane, and the traffic's so bad." And being from LA, the traffic is phenomenal. You have no idea until you sat on the 405 on a Friday what traffic is really like. To take 4 hours on a 20-minute trip, that's ridiculous. Denver has some traffic, but it's nowhere near what LA is. And the housing prices, gosh, I was paying $2,500 for a 2-bedroom townhouse in LA, and I was renting it. And I came out here and bought a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom like house in the suburbs for $2,500 a month for mortgage. So the comparison on the cost of living and the housing, like Denver is way lower, and it's getting higher. There's getting to be more people. There's getting to be more traffic. I'm not saying it's not evolving. It absolutely is. But it's still better than a lot of places in the country that have it much worse. Right.
Do you think that raising the minimum wage, instead of raising the minimum wage, why wouldn't you just promote people to not do like the McDonald's job? You know what I mean? Those jobs are, and I'm not talking down on them at all. I'm not doing that at all.
Well, someone's got to do it though. Someone's going to do it. Right. Whether they pay $7 or $15, somebody's going to go to McDonald's and make the hamburgers.
Right. Right.
It might be the
Right.
illegal immigrants, quite honestly, that are going to end up doing it because they're going to want to pay under the table if they want to go under minimum wage. But I would rather that people have a living wage where they can pay rent, they can, provide education, food for their children and their family, and they're not debating on rent or groceries or feeding their children. Like, I think people should be able to do that. If you're working a 40-hour week, you should be able to have a minimum living standard.
No, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. I did a podcast because I would always hear people talk about how they couldn't afford things and they didn't have time for things, right?
That's a matter of priorities.
Right. No, absolutely, absolutely. So my experiment was I took on a second job for a year. You know what I mean? And I totally maxed my time out, right? You have 24 hours in a day. You sleep for 8 of it. That's 16 hours. So you go to a job for 8 hours of that day. You have 8 hours to do what you want. And my life never changed. You know what I mean? Like, I still play pool at the level I play at. I built this podcast. I built a brand. I still had time to do my lazy things. And I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck then. But what I'm saying though is like taking on that extra job. You know what I mean? It was fine. Right. So, I think some of these people that are, talking raise the minimum wage, they're just looking at more time to be lazy. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's part of it, but what about people with families? Like, that 8 hours is maybe the only 4 hours you actually get to spend with your kids.
Right. So in the podcast, it was a disclaimer that this is for if you don't have kids. Now, if I had kids, I could still do the 2 jobs. I just wouldn't do pool as much, or I wouldn't be able to build this podcast, or I wouldn't, because now my priorities shifted, right? Now I have children, right? Because that's what I chose to do. So instead of building something for myself, like as in like a business thing, or maybe like build something for myself as in like the pool world, well, I built something for myself now as in a child. So you still can do that, right? You sleep for 8 hours a day, you work 8 hours a day, and you have 8 hours to spend with your child. That's a long time. 8 hours to spend with your child is a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but let's say you don't pick them up from school till 4, 5, 6, depending on what your job is. Maybe you work 9 to 5. So you get your kid at 6, you get them home, we do homework, we get dinner, they do bath, they go to bed. Is that really a long time? Maybe you go to bed. You might need an hour to relax because you've been either working or with your kids for the last 16 hours. And let me tell you, after that, you're not going to have a whole lot of energy. And so to say that you're going to be able to prioritize it, believe me, kids throws a whole other wrench into that system where you think you can prioritize what it is, but it's exhausting. And there's not a whole lot of extra time in there.
Right.
But can you do it? Yeah, time management is huge. I was listening to oh God, Joe Rogan's one of my favorite podcasts ever, and I was listening to him talk to I think one of the congressmen running for, or one of the guys running for Congress in Texas, and they both obviously work out, and it's one of those things where they're better people when they work out, but they have to make the time to do it. And is it 10 minutes? Is it 15 minutes? Is it half an hour here and there? It doesn't matter. They fit it into their schedule because they're prioritizing that as part of their day. And so you can do it if you want to do it and you make the time for it.
Right.
But, understand also there's a lot of demands on people's time, whether it's work, school, kids, family, husband, wife, brother, sister. I mean, there's a lot of demands on your time. And yeah, maybe, you don't get to play pool as often. Maybe you got to focus for a little while. The nice thing about pool is that it'll be there when you get done, when all these things are over. So you can always come back to it.
Well, and there are people out there that, they have had a certain job with kids and then at night went to school and created a better life for themselves. So it's like,
Yep. It can be done. It is tough though, man. A lot of people just want to play video games and hang out after like all of that is done. It's not like you want to go study for your MBA after everybody goes to sleep. Like that's brutal. But I know people that get up at 4 a.m. and that's the quietest time of the day, and that's when they're going to study and get all of their stuff done, so that by the time they go to work at 8 or whatever, they've already had half a day. The trick of that for a pool player is you got to go to sleep before midnight, which is ridiculous.
Right.
So.
Right. Because it's more of a night thing for sure. Yeah, it's what. So this is the interesting thing, because I observe both sides, right? And this is the interesting thing that I see is most of the people that are, because basically it's anti-Trump, for or against Trump. That's about it. People on the left, like, even some of them, they don't agree with Biden. They're like, nah, because the left. So I was a huge Tulsi Gabbard fan, right? Like I really like her ideas and what she represents. And, the fact that the left kneecapped Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard boggles my mind, because they would have destroyed Trump. You know what I mean?
Would they?
100%. 100%. Like a Bernie had a huge following.
Bernie does have a huge following, and I love Bernie. Actually, I love some of his ideas.
Right.
For healthcare, and some of the I think he makes a lot of sense. But I don't know if he's the leader of the country. I think you give him a really high appointed office somewhere and let him go to town.
And Tulsi Gabbard, like she would have gathered a lot of the right over to the left. Like her. So here's something super interesting: is two big topics that Trump has brought up that really haven't been discussed anywhere. I haven't seen it on the mainstream news. But when you listen to his speeches or his rallies, they're in there, right? One is when he was talking at the Whirlpool, at the Whirlpool Center factory. He mentioned that, he's taken on Big Pharma. So prices, we won't need a quote unquote affordable healthcare or insurance packages, because because medical is going to be super affordable, cutting prices like 80-90%, because these middlemen are price gouging. You know what I mean? We all know how much the medical industry price gouges. It's fucking ridiculous. You know what I mean? We also just mentioned that we know that big agriculture is poisoning our food, right? So if you took out all disease, not all disease, but majority of the disease that is possibly put upon us to gain profit, you know what I mean? A lot of the stuff would change naturally, because of the corruption, because of the lobbyism, because of the backdoor deals and the whatever, right?
Have you ever heard the Chris Rock special where he says they're never gonna find a cure for anything because the money's in the medicine?
Right, 100%. And I think that's truth. I think that is a lot of that is truth.
Of course it is.
So like a Trump acknowledging that. I mean, that's suicide for him to say it.
Is it? I mean, right? Trump's been able to get away with so much stuff that you'd think would be political. Can you imagine if John F. Kennedy came out, said just grab him by the pussy? His shit would have been over. There would have been like a national riot. Like, it's insane.
Right. Well, John F. Kennedy got assassinated because of all the stuff that Trump is implementing, which is interesting, right? And I'm not trying to sound like a Trump supporter or pro-Trump or anything.
Man,
I'm
you're
just
allowed
like,
to
because
be pro-Trump. You can be a pro-Trump. This is part of being in America, where everybody gets to believe whatever they want to believe.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. I'm just trying to say, look at the facts. Look at the things that I'm seeing. How do you not go left with all, you think all the mainstream media is made up? CNN is made up? He calls those people dummies and idiots 100%. And buffoons. Like, they're not. They are the people that are paying attention to the news. Does it have a left or right bias? Of course it does. But it also, they're not making this stuff up. I'm not seeing Seth Meyers or Trevor Noah making stuff up. They have plenty of material these guys are giving them. They're just shining the light on some of the things that are really funny, except for they're extremely disturbing because they are from the President of the United States.
Because they're all watching the same black box that everybody else is watching.
But they also get all the news.
Not like...
They also have a lot of insiders. They have other information. I trust those guys to go out and find a lot of information. They're looking at this stuff on a daily basis. They have staffers that are reading all the newspapers for them to find the best tidbits of what's going on. That's happening. That's part of the show.
You want to hear something interesting? Is Bill Clinton, back in his presidency, deregulated the media. So up until that point, you were only able to own 7 publications, right? So one person could only own a newspaper, a magazine, a TV show, a radio show, a radio network, I guess, a TV network or whatever. You're only able to own 7 because it stopped monopolies, right? Well, he deregulated it to where now, like we were saying earlier, if you look into the media, it's only owned by like 6 people, which is insane.
It's a concentration of power, for sure.
Right. So it's a lot easier for them to push the same narratives, right? And to stop others. We're starting to realize that on social media now, right? YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can't mention certain things, right? Like, I remember you couldn't mention hydrochloroquine back when COVID was starting.
Oh, you mean the president said, maybe we can inject
it. And now doctors are prescribing it, right? So it's just interesting to me how, like, for example, the CNN, Anderson Cooper is a CIA plant. He interned at the CIA. He's also an heir to the Vanderbilt or the Vanderbilts, which is a massive family dynasty, right? So he comes from the money and the influence, right?
He's also a super smart guy. I don't know if you noticed that part, but he's not like some puppet that's up there just, putting out there whatever. Like, he's doing some hard-hitting news. He's not just focusing on one story. He's gotten out there and actually earned his name in journalism beyond just, I got this job because my daddy's a Vanderbilt.
Right. So like when you watch, isn't it interesting how when you turn on all these channels, it's just all Trump bashing, right? For me, that makes me wonder, why is it Trump bashing, right?
Because he's the one doing all the stupid shit. That's why.
Well, yeah.
And he is the current president. We have been highlighting president shenanigans for 4 years. It's not like they just suddenly started with the election year. Like, this has been going on since he got elected, since before he got elected. Like, this is not new, but he's also the president. And look, anytime the president does something, it's going to be news. It's not the vice president. It's not the guy that's running against the president. It's always going to be the president because, well, he's the fucking president.
So, because you mentioned, the conspiracy theories and the whatever, right? When people say things that, for example, right? In my world, I don't side with either left or right? Because I want all the information, right? I don't want to. No, because I don't believe in voting. So
then you don't get to bitch at all about how the system goes.
No, right. And I'm not, right? I don't really care who wins the presidency. I don't really care how this country goes. I don't really care.
You live here.
I don't care.
People fought and died so that you could vote, so that your vote would count. You should care.
I'm like too far down rabbit holes to like, so like all these wars have been false. They've been real wars, and yes, legitimate people have, real people have died, and they've went to battle for what in their minds was the right idea, but they are all they were all set up for war, right? If I was an arms dealer, why wouldn't I sell to both sides? You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be an arms dealer and only pick to arm America. You know what I mean? I'm gonna, I'm gonna arm America and I'm gonna arm China because they're both gonna buy my weapons, and then I'm gonna sit back and watch it all play out, and then I'm gonna offer to come back in and help rebuild. You know what I mean? Like, so it's interesting to me that the red and blue interaction is to me, it's all theatrics, right? It's to keep us not uniting together, right? Like it, for example, right, when Trump was mentioning the, taking on big pharma, cutting out the middleman and making healthcare always affordable all the time, because now you don't have those middlemen that are controlling stuff, right? Like when the EpiPen thing came out or the insulin thing, right? Those things didn't cost anywhere near what they were charging, and I think that's wrong for humanity, right? Because that's crazy, because people want to control things, right?
It's a capitalist society. It's called supply and demand, and that's a necessary evil, right? That is a byproduct of the system.
Right. But we had laws for example, when you get insurance, you know what I mean? You're not allowed to go and shop around for medicine. You have to go to whatever your insurance company is. They provide you the health care, right? They provide you, well, you can go here, 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 here. So it makes you look like you have options, but you really don't, because you're going to the places that they do business
or
with,
you can get a PPO and you can go wherever you want. There are options to do that.
Right. And then, these places that would charge, $800 for an EpiPen, you know what I mean? So I get it, right? The whole free market, capitalist society, I get that, right? And then it happens with our cable, right? Instead of fighting with each other and being competitive, why not all work together, right? They do it with our cell phone companies, right? It is, it's no coincidence that AT&T will come out with a deal and then everybody kind of will jump onto their platform, and then Sprint will come out with something, and then it looks like it's all competitive, but what it's doing is it's keeping us into that system, right? And all those companies are making money because all those companies are kind of owned by the same people, right? I just saw a Sprint and T-Mobile commercial because they're owned by the same people now. You know what I mean?
They're not owned by the same people.
Then why was it like? And now Sprint is on the T-Mobile network.
That's like the C470, right? Like they built the network, but you're allowed to ride it. So you're riding Verizon's network or you're riding T-Mobile's network, but they've negotiated prices and an agreement so that you can ride that network in that area, so that they don't have to build out everything. They can lease it. It's not that they are owned by the same people. It's that they've struck a deal that makes sense.
They're all working together. Right. Like, because it makes now both of them money, right? It's interesting that, so because I look at both sides, right, left and right, plus I do the research of like whatever people call conspiracy theories and whatever, right? It's interesting to see how, like, up until now, regardless of who you picked, it didn't matter.
It totally matters
because they were part of the same thing, right?
There's a lot of similarities, but you got to think about it like a Venn diagram, right? There's going to be certain similarities, and then there's the outskirts that are very different. And it's those outskirts that you're choosing. Are these outskirts okay with me, or are these outskirts, do these resonate more with me? And I got to say, I like the leftist outskirts better, even though there's going to be plenty of overlap in the middle where they overlap and they coincide, because that's how politics is. And they're going to agree on some things and be very, very different on others. And over time, it's funny to see how the values have flipped. Because once upon a time, being a Republican was a more liberal stance on things, and it was about more the people. Over time, it's become more about business, and it's flipped so that now the Democrats are more about the people. And so it's an evolution of the political system and the political parties over time. But if you look at this moment in time, it matters. It matters that you're going to keep this guy in office. He's going to keep lying to us. He's going to keep making us look like a fool on the world stage. He's going to keep the misogyny throughout his organization, and he's going to keep putting the wrong people in those high positions, and the Americans are going to feel it a little bit now, but it's the ramifications down the line that are scary. So something like Amy Coney Barrett getting that Supreme Court nominee confirmed right now and it's a lifetime appointment. She'll be on the Supreme Court until she dies, and she's not an old lady. She's like in her 40s or something. Like, she's got a long time to go. You're talking 30 years of somebody making conservative decisions based on her religion. And I'm not sure that's an unbiased approach that I want to see from the Supreme Court. It's going to affect things like the Affordable Health Care Act that Obama passed. That's going to come up for Supreme Court review in just a couple of weeks. That's going to make a huge difference. This whole Roe versus Wade coming up again, that's going to make a huge difference. Because did you ever read Freakonomics? Oh my God, It's such a great book. You need to pick up a copy or read it online through your Kindle or whatever. It's a great book. Yeah.
Freakonomics.
It's a great book. And I think because of your conspiracy theory tendencies, you might really enjoy it. But some of the things that it brings up, Roe versus Wade, giving women the power to not have a child that they do not want. All of those babies that were not born could have, if they had been born, they grow up in a hard life. They have parents that don't necessarily want them or are able to care for them. And what happens to them when they get older? You're talking 20 years old. Now they've had a terrible life growing up. They're feeding into the criminal system because that's the only life they know. They're generally low income families where now they're creating more gangs, more crime, more violence. But with Roe versus Wade, those babies were never born. And so we actually saw a really steep decline in the crime rate, not right away, but over time. 20 years later, it made a huge impact and difference. And so those are the things that, yes, this is why I'm going to vote blue. This is why I don't want Trump back in office making these decisions, because I don't think it's good for my kid. Not because necessarily for me, but the policies they're putting in place now will affect Americans for the rest of their lives.
Right. Yeah, no. I totally agree with abortions. I think that if you don't have a child, you don't want to have a child. Who cares? Like, humans live and die every day. What like,
if you don't like abortions, don't have one. But you don't get to tell me not to have one. I need to have the ability and the freedom to take advantage of today's technology if I so choose. That is one of the freedoms that I have. It's one of the benefits of being in a first world country. We have this kind of technology where you can safely do these things and you're not just stuck. And it's not for, repeated not child care, but preventative maintenance or anything. Like, this is like a situational thing, and understand the gravity of it. But I really think that women need to have the option if they aren't ready, if there's some sort of violence involved, there's 1,000 different reasons. Why should somebody have the ability to tell me that I don't get to choose what happens in my life? That's crazy. It's just crazy.
Right. So what also is no, I agree with that, right? Like I make my own choices. That's what it is, right? I don't want other people. Now I get it on, yeah, don't do the, the far extreme stuff, right? I can't go kill people. I can't go rob someone's house. I can't, whatever, right? But but for the most part, yeah, you take control of your life, right? Um, uh, One thing that, because you just brought up the affordable healthcare, so for example, right, like when Trump's saying that he's taking on big pharma, then technically, would we need affordable healthcare at all if all of the prescription drugs and all of that stuff were actually affordable to everybody? They were actually cheap, right? Like instead of your prescription being $400 a month, and now you need to get on Medicaid, Medicare, or have a good health insurance with a decent premium. Now that bottle is $15, and you can just buy it outright.
It might
You know what I
work
mean?
that way. I was unemployed for a little while late last year, and I had to go find my own healthcare in this marketplace and find something that was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And if I needed a doctor, that I would be able to go see one at a reasonable rate. I mean, even just doctor's visits can be really expensive.
Super
It's not
expensive,
just the drugs and the pharmacy part of it. It's also the actual
right?
medical part of it. And if you need a procedure, God forbid, did his work on making big pharma cheaper, did that make my surgery cheaper? I'm not sure it will. And I think that's the part of the Affordable Health Care Act that is actually much different than Trump's big pharma plans.
Yeah, it's just keeping us on a payment plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I don't think that
Um,
fixes it. I haven't seen a good healthcare proposal that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all for that. I mean, I don't like Bernie Sanders. I don't actually like Biden, and I don't like Trump's. I don't think we're doing it right in this country, and I don't know how to fix it. If your arm gets broken and you live in Germany or Canada, you just go to the doctor. It's healthcare for all. You don't end up with a
right,
giant bill. Now, you don't always get the best care either. We have some of the best doctors in the world in the US because of the high prices that they charge, are able to charge, and the fees they're able to collect. You get a doctor that makes $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year here. You are getting the best care you possibly can. Whereas in some of those other places, they have some good doctors, but maybe that crown is made out of, some metal that we don't really use anymore, because if you had gone to a doctor in the US, they use porcelain now, right? So maybe it's a little bit different care, and I'm not sure that's better, but I do think that even limited care should be available to folks that can't afford something else. It's not taking away the private option, you're giving the public an option.
right. No, I agree with that, right? Like I agree that everybody, um, you know, when it comes to disease and when it comes to whatever, like we should all be, um, uh, we should all have the ability to have access to treatment, to a better, healthier life. You know what I mean? Um, that's like a human right, basically. You know, um,
Is that a human right you have today?
Um,
Uh-huh.
with healthcare,
Being in
yeah,
America, living in Colorado, do you have healthcare as a right? If you lost your job tomorrow, both your jobs, do you now have healthcare?
I don't have healthcare because
You
I
don't even
opted
have
out of it.
any healthcare. And I've met a lot of folks, certainly healthy males under 40, that are like, I never go to the doctor anyway. What do I need to pay into that for? And you know what? I completely understand it. I don't use it very often either. But the truth is that if something happens, I want to have it. And I want to be able to choose my doctor. I don't want to have to go to a clinic somewhere with my arm broken and wait for 12 hours to be seen.
Right, right. Like the accidental part of it, for sure. Like it is always smart to have some type of accidental insurance. Um, so like uh, you know, through my work, they provide amazing healthcare, right? Um, I just opted out of it because I don't really need it.
No, you don't
You know
need
what I
it
mean?
today, but what if you need it tomorrow? What if what if you get coronavirus? What are you going to do? You need a ventilator. What are you going to do?
Well, I don't
What
think you
if
need a
it did?
ventilator
What
when you
if
have
you did? What
coronavirus.
if you were one of those rare cases that isn't really so rare at this point, but maybe it gets into your lungs and there's a problem and you need to go on a ventilator. How are you going to pay for that?
I'm not. It doesn't matter. Like I wouldn't go
No,
on
you'd
one.
rather die.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So yes, I am a unique. That's a unique question to a unique individual. Me. I would just choose to go.
That's fair.
You know what I
Some
mean?
people don't want to
Like,
suffer through the solution.
well, no, it's not even suffering through the solution. I'm just like as far as I am in this journey of life we have, and all what is in my brain, um, uh, I just view the world completely different. So I'm not a huge proponent on fighting for my own life, right? Like it's like if I go, I go. I'm ready to move on. I'm like, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that because I'm sad or anything. I'm just saying that because that's what it is. You know what I mean?
No, and I get that. Look, I'm
I'm
okay with death too. Honestly, if it happens, it happens. Does that mean I'm not going to fight and do everything I can to not die? Yeah. You know what? I am. I'm going to have health care. If something happens, I'm going to have them fix me. If there's a chance that I'm going to come back, like, yeah, keep me on the damn ventilator. But if you get to the point where, like, I'm brain dead anyway, no, let me go. Like, if I get into a horrible car accident, I'm never going to have my mental faculties again the same way again. Yeah, maybe it's time to go. But I tell you what, I want to give myself the best chance I can to live my life and do it the way that I want, make the choices and have the freedoms that I have. And I don't want to die. I want to be able to take care of myself if something catastrophic happens. And that's why I have health
right,
care.
right. Yeah, like it's so what I was saying before was like because I stand back and you know like there's obviously two sides to this. So the
Didn't you
interesting
just
thing
break your
is
hand or
so
something? Or your shoulder had some problem? Didn't you go to a doctor? Like, did you see anybody about any of that?
no, I just took care of it myself. Yeah, like you can do a lot of things by yourself. Your body is amazing. Your body is absolutely amazing. So like uh looking at both sides, right? Like um the the interesting thing with that Trump thing and the big pharma, because he also mentioned um that we are done going to war. We are done going to endless wars for profit, right? He says that the soldiers love me, but these higher up generals in the Pentagon aren't going to like me much because we are done going to wars and lining these weapon manufacturing companies' pockets with crazy amount of money, right? Raytheon, uh, Lockheed Martin, JPL, you know what I mean? All of these places that, you know, create these weapons, you know, well, they're only creating them and now they have to, so when they sell them to somebody, they have to use them on something. You know what I mean? They don't just sit there. You know what I mean? Um, so it's just interesting to me that, I mean, those are really two big statements to say, and they're really suicidal to a president,
Do you
especially
think
a
he's going to
president.
actually do them?
Um, um, do I think? Well, that so exactly that goes back to, well, can you trust politicians? But it's like, well, then how can you trust what Biden says? You know what I mean? How can you trust what any of them say? You know what I mean? So you have to kind of just go off their word at first, but you
But look
also
at the
have
words
to,
he's giving
you
you to
know,
go off of. Like, all right, so Biden says that he wants to change and he wants to come up with a real plan for healthcare and he's put one out there. It's out there. You can go find it on the internet. It exists. There's a plan. You look at Trump and Trump says he's got a plan. It's a big, beautiful plan for healthcare. Where is it? Crickets.
so you want to hear the crazy thing on that? The reason why you can find Biden's healthcare plan is because Biden absolutely 100% plans to go with that plan, right? Because it helps big insurance companies, right? Obama bailed out insurance companies. It's the same thing, right? These insurance companies are operated under the same umbrellas, right? Look into what the Council of 300 is. Look into, the Committee of 300 or Council on Foreign Relations. Those are the real world powers that are dictating a lot of this, right? They're not presidents. They're not these other people. They are higher ups, like come from massive money, like Rockefeller, Rothschild money, right? So Biden's healthcare thing, right? Yeah, whatever he's laid out, I'm sure he's going to follow to a T.
Oh, I'm sure he's not.
Right?
It won't ever all
Trump,
pass. It's not going to be to a T. This is what he's going to try and achieve. That's what the proposal is, and then they'll have to make compromises in order to get it anywhere, and then it'll look completely different when it finally gets there. But at least he's starting with a plan.
Right. And what I'm saying though is Trump, his whole thing is, the far scope or the far path down Trump is what's called the golden age of humanity, right? Nasara Jasara law, which, yeah, he probably doesn't have like these crazy healthcare plans and, all this stuff set up because there won't be any healthcare plans because we won't need any.
You will absolutely need one. To think that you're not going to need one is insane.
No. Right. You you will only have to go to the hospital when you create a physical accident, like break your arm, cut yourself, do whatever. But a lot of your diseases and all this cancer shit and all this other stuff isn't going to be around.
You're going to eradicate
because
it? How are you going to get rid of cancer? How did you get to that?
No, that's what I'm saying though, is because that's all. You create the disease and you sell the treatment.
The disease is there though.
Create the disease,
it's there. So they have a treatment. And so under Trump's plan, you're saying they wouldn't have it anymore? How do you get there?
Right.
That is a leap of logic that I'm not making with you, because they didn't make up that they have cancer. These people have cancer. They need treatment. How is it going to be paid for?
No, I'm not saying they're making up. I'm not saying they made up they had cancer. I'm saying how they got cancer has been. So early in this conversation, you brought up Monsanto. Well, they got found out that what they were spraying on the crops was giving people cancer.
Yeah. That is one way.
That's why they got dissolved.
It's not the only way for it to happen.
Well, I know. But if you take that out of the equation, then you're eliminating some cancer. Now, what if that process is put in a lot of other places that we're not quite aware of?
Have you seen a plan to do that?
To
take out this part of the equation?
To take out the corruption of it? Yeah, that's why Trump says drain the swamps.
I don't. Trump was draining the swamp, but he was replacing the swamp with his own swamp monsters. Like, he didn't actually drain the swamp. And I believe the draining of the swamp was taking out a lot of those heads of positions, those positions that are heads of big departments, and changing. And he did, but the people that he put in, they aren't better. In fact, they're much worse. So you didn't drain the swamp. You made the swamp fucking swampier.
Well, no, for sure. Absolutely. Me and this guy were having a conversation I used to work with, talking about that, right? Because he was like, why would you replace this guy with this guy? And exactly what you're saying, right? Well, art of war is, you keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So, you get to, say I was president and I knew that some people in here were corrupt and I got rid of them, but I replaced them with even more corrupt people. And people are like, what are you doing? You should replace with more corrupt people. But to me, it's like, well, I need to see how far their roots go. Because I know that they're not the main person. I know that they are answering to something, and I need to figure it out.
You just put them in the position of policing themselves. How good's that going to work out? just so you could see how deep it is.
No, true.
That's not a good plan. That is not.
True.
That is going to be
Right.
counterproductive for
Right.
you. And that's you look. I don't think that that's going to work. I don't think any of the platforms that he ran on, he's going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. He built exactly 3 miles of wall and otherwise replaced walls that were already existing. And Mexico did not pay for it. In fact, the American taxpayers are paying for it, except for he's not an American taxpayer, so he didn't build the wall at all, at his expense. That was a lie. There are so many lies that have come out of his mouth that I don't trust him. I don't trust him. I don't want him to be in office. I don't think he's a very good figure leader. I don't think he's done what he said he was going to do. And I think that Biden can take a good shot at making some good change.
Okay. The Biden thing, you don't think it's weird that, you had like Bernie and Tulsi and all those guys like concede to him and
you don't think that he did some backroom deals that was like, I supported Obama during that and was the VP, I'm part of this, like, and maybe he did that so that he could run on this ticket? Of course there's some backroom deals going on. I think that's true, but this is the best candidate they had to put forward. He did all the political maneuvering he had to do to be the person that got put forward, and here he is. And he picked Kamala Harris, who I'll tell you, when I saw her debate, I was fully prepared not to like her. Like, not at all. I was like, this woman's going to be weak. She's going to let Pence run all over her. It's going to be horrible. And you know what? I was super surprised when I was rooting for her at the end, listening to how intelligently she speaks on all the issues, watching her with a lot of poise in front of a large crowd that is probably 50-50 as far as supporters, and listening to her debate really got me to understand why he picked her as VP. And if something happened to him, I'll be honest, I would rather have her than Pence take over.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt that she's a woman and she's from California, and she probably shares a lot of the same values I do, but I can hear the intelligence in her voice, the confidence in her voice, the winds of change, that I think she would be such a strong leader. And one of those people that you can point to, that all these little black and brown girls all over the country can say, look what you can do too. We've come a long way since slavery and all those other things, the Confederate flag, God, don't even get me started on that. But look how far these people have come. And it's no longer about the color of your skin. It's not a racial issue anymore. She is she has her master's. She's got, she has a ton of education, you can tell. She's well versed on all the subjects and issues at hand, and she could handle all of it. And I really believe that from watching that debate. And I don't know that Pence has the same. I don't know whose pocket he's in. I haven't seen him do much in 4 years that he's been there. And I heard that, they gave him the coronavirus as, this is his to lead. And I don't think they did a great job there. So I'm going to vote Kamala Harris and Biden all the way. They're just, it's no doubt in my mind that is the change this country needs.
Yeah, like, it's interesting. So going back to, standing back and looking at both sides, you want to know something interesting is like the right? Yes, you do have Trump supporters, but when you go into like these like quote unquote conspiracy theorists or like these like Q supporters or whatever, which kind of make up more of the right? Because on the right, you have people now, going down conspiracy rabbit holes. More of the right does it than the left does it, right? And the interesting thing is if information comes out that, Trump deceived in any way, the right are also prepared to burn down Trump just as much as they are as Biden. So
they're a fickle bunch.
So here's the here's the interesting part, right? Is if the left wins, if Biden wins, you're going to see militias march in our government for the first time ever. Because not because that they don't like Biden and how they are or whatever, but because they believe that Biden is corrupt and has sold it out to foreign policy, to other foreign nations.
Which Trump has also done, but okay.
No, right. So the right are starting to come more open to the, that it's not all countries are against each other. It is basically the world is split in half. You have families that have been running stuff for thousands of years, and you have this global alliance that is a huge world military operation, right? So that's the split, right? But at surface value, you have, people that just watch the TV and that's where they get their information. And then you have other people that, and then the right that are, trying to get their information from like conspiracy theories or, the internet. Right. So you have literally two types of people, that view this world completely different. Yep. You know what I mean? So to me, that's the interesting part, is because why are they dividing people so badly this time, right? Council on Foreign Relations, all these big time media conglomerates, Jack Dorsey at Twitter, Zuckerberg at Facebook, why are they censoring information, only putting information out to certain people? I did this experiment on my Facebook where I started liking a lot of more left stuff, and my Facebook changed. But that's the algorithms, right? So if you just live, so for example, if you get all your information on Facebook, then you live in an echo chamber. That's what Facebook is. It is an echo chamber for you, right? That's why you get all the direct messaging or the direct marketing and all of whatever. That's why everything's all customizable to you, right? But you live in your own echo chamber, right? Now it's a very difficult thing to expand yourself out of that. You know what I mean?
What? You have to leave Facebook to get more information? But you know what? You have the Google. The Google will tell you whatever in any subject, and it's not bipartisan.
Well, they're owned by the same people.
Search a word, it's going to come up with the sponsored result as well as all the other results with that keyword. And if you really want to see something in specific, you put in the right keywords, it'll give it to you. It's not going to send. You don't live in China where these things don't exist. Like, they exist, and they are willing to feed into your frenzy, whatever that frenzy is. It's not going away. Media is not going away. Media, I really like the media. I like the people that are giving me my news. I don't know how old you are, but I don't read the newspaper anymore. Like, the LA Times used to be, you could read a lot of the LA Times and you could trust a lot of the things. They had to fact check sources and things like that. They don't do that for the internet. The internet, you can put up whatever you want. And we're back after another commercial break.
That's crazy. It just keeps kicking off.
It's been like an hour or something. I don't want to take up a lot more of your time. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to talk about the issues at hand and getting people out to vote and just making people more aware. I think one of the reasons you wanted to have me on was not my degree in political science, but actually, my Facebook feed and listening to folks go back and forth on the issues and the presidents and the candidates and why, and really trying to take a bit of a centrist view of it and see, why do you think what you think, and what makes you so passionate about it, and trying to be fair and listen and learn.
Right. Right.
And not call people names or call anybody out for thinking something. That's the beauty of this country, is you get to think whatever you want.
Right.
My thing is, I just want to know why. Why do you think that? What makes it so that, is it your parents were in the military and this is just how you guys all think? Is there a specific thing? So I want to thank you for having me on just to talk about, all the things that are affecting us today in this crazy political climate. And hopefully you'll have me back on after the election when I can be like, bye, Trump.
Yeah, it's yeah, like exactly right. Like it's just conversation, and try not to be as biased one way or the other. Like uh, we can definitely tell how like things can't be really done correct because one side's passionate, the other side's passionate, which just ultimately turns into argument and, well, you're wrong on this and I'm right on this, and back and forth and back and forth. Like it it's just having interesting conversations, and it's very what I fear is coming is, regardless of who wins this election and loses it, that you're going to have just friends fighting friends, neighbors fighting neighbors.
There'll be some civil unrest because of it, one way or the other, and
right.
then it'll die down because that's how the system goes, and then we'll see if there really is going to be a peaceful transfer of power.
Yeah, it's we will see. All of the information is literally all speculation, and we're not really going to know how it all plays out until it plays out, right? So, for example, on the right, we won't know that, well, was China really planning on to invade us, and then did people in our government sell us out to communist China? We won't know if that plays out until the left wins. If the
you
right
won't
wins,
ever know that stuff if it plays out. A lot of that stuff is shadow stuff, shadow government stuff. You won't ever know whether that threat was real or it wasn't, or what. We don't play on their playing field. They're going to do what they're going to do. I'm trying to put the people that I think that are best to play in that position. And I do this a lot when I'm managing my pool teams. Look, I don't want to match up the low players with the high players. I'm trying to get an even match between these guys and put the guy that I think is going to win in the box.
Right.
Who's going to beat the handicap? And I think Biden's going to beat it. I think that Trump's going to have a much harder time, and I think at some point he'll probably just pout off and cry. And I don't think that's the way to get business done.
Do you so do you think that if it goes the other way and Trump wins, how do you think the left's going to react?
I think the left will accept it. I think there'll probably be some protests on some level for some of the lower classes that are unhappy with the government now. I don't think that's new. They're going to continue to peacefully protest the government and the policies, and we'll probably keep seeing more police brutality because things won't change. We'll probably see our environment go more to shit, and big corporations get more tax cuts. That's what I think will happen if Trump wins.
Yeah, I mean,
but at the end of the day, for you and me, Chase, we're probably just going to end up at Felt. And
right.
It won't be much different.
Right.
It doesn't change my world a whole lot.
It is interesting, huh? How like a presidential, whatever really doesn't affect us here at the local level. What kind of affects us here is how we vote locally, like mayors and governors and whatever. Like, we live in Colorado where marijuana is legal. I'm from Montana where it's illegal. And that's not a federal thing. That's a state by state thing. So people,
that stuff makes a difference in your life and your day to day and how you live in. But it's every vote matters. I think you should vote, even if you just vote, pick C all the way down the ticket. I think you should vote one way or the other. I think your vote and your voice matters. You have an opinion. I think honestly, you sway a little bit left.
No, yeah. So that's the interesting thing, right? Because the political thing, how I talk. I mean, you know me personally, so it's like, but if I had to vote, I would vote Trump. That's the interesting thing.
Which I think is crazy with all his indefensible actions. How any woman that votes for him, I don't even know how you do it. I just don't understand. You just think that it's okay for men to talk to you this way, but then again, there's women that stay in these abusive relationships and they don't know how to get out, and maybe that's what's happening, because I don't get it, and I still don't get it. I'll keep asking on Facebook. Maybe someday someone will change my mind, but until then,
I agree with that.
I don't see it happening. So again, Chase, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yeah, for sure. I will. I'll try to splice these together the best I can. Like,
good luck, dude.
Like, yeah, that's crazy. And I will, and I'll let you know when I put this out.
Sounds good. Thanks, dude.
All right. Thank you for taking time.
Anytime. It was a pleasure.
I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Later.
This is for the lost ones, the ones suffering from exhaustion. Life beating down, so you still playing cautious. Need you to search deep inside of your conscience. Unleash whatever monsters are keeping you from your progress. I know that you gon' find a way, never give up. Tomorrow could be the brightest day. Follow the light, and I promise you gon' find a way. I know that you gon' find your way.